The host of the apartment that I'm staying in Vilnius, in Lithuania, looked me up and found my social media, and she sent me a question. She said, I thought maybe I can ask you for some advice or tips. I have one idea I strongly believe in, particularly for the US market. The challenge is that I'm not familiar with the US audience and how to effectively reach them without spending too much on meta ads. I'm also more artist than business oriented, so it's a challenge for me where to start. But don't want to bother you too much. Just let me know if you could give me a minute of your time. Maybe or maybe not. It's okay. So I sent her actually a long voice message and a bunch of texts. And I also sent her my exact social media posting guide for anybody who just wants to start posting on social media, which if you are not super technical, it is amazing. If you are an artist type and you want to make content to promote your brand or a brand that you have an idea for, and you want to actually just make content and make cool stuff and entertain people while selling, I have my exact way of posting on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Facebook Reels, which I discovered from now 675 days posting in a row. And that's on my article. It's pinned to the header on desktop. And on mobile, it's not pinned to the header, but you can literally Google Edward Sturm exact social media posting strategy and you will find it. So I sent her that. And I sent her this long voice message. And this is what I told her. And this is why I'm making this episode of the podcast. It's for people who ask me this, because I hear this question, a similar version of this question all the time. Do you think my idea could work? Maybe it's in the US market. Maybe it's with this market. Do you think it could work? And really, I get this question all the time. And I always share a friend, for example, and then I share myself. I share all these different things. So I have a friend. I met him while living in Kiev. I've talked about him before. I lived in Kiev, Ukraine for 2 years, and I met this guy, and he had a company streaming music for pets. He was a guy from the UK, and he started a company of around 13 years ago now, and maybe he was 12, streaming music for pets on YouTube. And if 12 years ago, 13 years ago, someone told you, I'm going to make a super successful company streaming music for pets on YouTube, you would have been like, lol, okay. And when I heard that idea, I was like, lol. But we became friends and I found out he was super successful. He has a bunch of Rolexes, a bunch of apartments in London, and he just sold his company for several tens of millions of dollars. And this guy started the company. He owns 100% of the company, or owned 100% of the company. So everything he sold it for, that was all his. And he started it 12 years ago. And success wasn't super fast, and he kept at it and he figured it out. And it was an idea that a lot of people would have told you, that's crazy. There's no way that's going to be super profitable. And he just did it. There's an idea he believed in. He wanted to do it. He stuck with it. He did it. He kept at it for 10 years, owned 100% of the thing, didn't have to depend on anybody else and the employees that he paid. And if one employee didn't work out, he could fire them. He did that a bunch of the times, find a great team. He had a great team and then sold the company over the course of 10 years. I really believe there is no such thing as a bad idea. And I'm saying this for people who want to start, but they don't know if they can do it. And if they don't know if their idea is good. And I just so strongly believe there is no such thing as a bad idea. And I don't necessarily like the saying, there's not a bad idea, it's just bad execution. I actually think it's a bit more nuanced, and it's fairer to say, instead of it's just bad execution, there's only people who are unwilling to put in the longevity to figure out the proper execution. Because not everybody gets it the first time. And you might not get it the first time. You might not get it the second time or the third time or the fourth time, but there's a good chance you're going to get it the fifth time or the sixth time. And that happened with my friend. He tried and figured it out. I talked about this before. A year ago, I had probably 3,000 followers on Instagram and I wasn't super well known. I was well known with the people who were on TikTok, but the audiences between TikTok and Instagram are not actually that similar. I was sharing the story yesterday with a fan. A fan messaged me here in Vilnius and said, I want to learn from you. Can we go for a walk? And I said, okay, we're going to go for a walk. Let's do it. And I was talking and I was sharing this story. And I'm like, this is a great story. I love this story because literally a year ago, I was stagnating, plateauing. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep doing this, but I said, I'm going to figure it out. There is no way if I don't stick with this, that I'm not going to figure this out. And I'm going to stick with this and I'm going to figure it out. I am not so dumb where if I stick with something, I am not going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. I had been using an automation to post from TikTok to Instagram, and Instagram doesn't like it when videos come out with shared IP addresses or posts or anything or any content comes out with shared IP addresses, the types of IP addresses that you will get from an automation tool. And that's what was happening. I was using this automation tool, reusevideo.com, which I share all the time on this show. I'm their biggest affiliate, one of their biggest power users, works super well for lots of other channels, but the meta channels, it does not work well for. And if I hadn't kept at it for 3 months when I was plateauing, if I had given up during those 3 months in the summer of last year, I mean, it's crazy. I couldn't imagine myself being where I am now 1 year ago. And what happened was I kept at it for so many months. One time the automation tool was down, so I posted the video manually, and then I found that it did a lot better, and I tried it again, and it did a lot better again. And I tried it with a different setting, and that made it do even better. And then I found a glitch posting on Instagram that allowed me to grow really, really fast. And even when the glitch went away, just because I had learned how to make good, engaging content from TikTok, and just posting normally on Instagram Reels, which is super generous with visibility, I was still growing. And I shared this story yesterday too. This person was afraid that this person's friends, when this person started making content, the content was going to be cringe, it was going to be awkward, and the person's friends and connections were going to see the content. And I faced the same thing a couple of months ago because the glitch that I found on Instagram that allowed me to grow really fast, it was posting Reels so that your existing followers don't see. And it was this thing where the algorithm was weighted improperly. And if you checked off the box so that your existing audience didn't see the Reel that you posted, the Reel would get way more reach. It was some weird glitch. It worked really well for me. It worked really well for my friend Avni. It worked for a bunch of other people. And then the glitch was patched and the feature went away. The feature, more so than just the feature, went away in January or February or something like that of this year. And then I had this decision to make. Well, if I keep posting my content from TikTok and I post it as Reels on Instagram, my existing New York City social connections are going to see. And my existing connections from all the people I met around Europe so far, they're all going to see. Everyone's going to see my marketing content. And I think it's good, but I've had some hits, but I don't know if everything's really good. And I don't know. I don't want to just post everything and then they're going to think that I'm spamming their For You pages and I'm going to lose followers from people that I know. And here's what happened. I said this to a friend who had been growing super fast. He put on 500,000 followers in a year. And he said, don't be, and he talks very harsh, but he said, don't be a B word. I'm not going to say the word because I don't like to curse on this podcast. That's what he said to me. He said, don't be afraid, just do it. And he said, who cares? Your real friends are not going to unfollow you. And I like the people who talk really harsh to me. That's what gets me going. When he's like, don't be the B word. He's like, don't do that. Be fearless. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so I did it. And actually a few people unfollowed me. And those weren't my real friends. And some of them followed me back. I unfollowed them. When they unfollowed me, they followed me back. And I didn't keep following them. I didn't follow them back. I didn't care anymore. In fact, last week, I went through all of my people that I was following, and I just realized, because I have a lot of people who pay attention to me now, that I only want people who I'm seeing on my For You page of Instagram. I want it to be either people who really I like the influence that they have, so it's content creators who just make content that I love so much, or it's people that I have deep relationships with, or it's people who I really learn from, friends who maybe I don't have a super deep relationship with them, but I'm really learning from them. I have a bunch of friends like that. We're all making content together, and you know who you are if you're listening. We're all making content like that together, and we're all learning from each other. So it's friends who I'm learning from, friends who I have deep relationships with, or content creators whose content I just love and I learn from. Or there's some authors and some celebrities who I just really F with. And those are the people that I follow with now. There were all these tangential connections that I had, people who I met once and I followed because my network wasn't as big as it is now. And I just followed them and I didn't care about seeing them on my timeline all the time. And they were taking market share away from the people that I really care about, the people that I care about the most. And so I went through all the people that I was following and I unfollowed about 100 people because I just said, I just really want only the people who I really care about in my life and just in my influences now. And what happens is you do something different and then they laugh at you. And then you stick with it and slowly they start to respect you. And then you grow and then they admire you. And they love you and they want to be part of your life. And they feel FOMO that you're not part of your life. I'm not so big yet where people hate me. I believe that once you get big enough, people hate you. Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. I have a lot of friends who don't like Gary Vaynerchuk because he's so big. I, however, really like Gary Vaynerchuk. I just respect his hustle. I understand why a lot of friends don't really like him. I don't care. I respect Gary Vaynerchuk's hustle so much, and he's kept at it for such a long time. I got his new book because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that dude. But then you get so big that people just don't like you. Of course, plenty of people like you, but then there's a minority that doesn't, because there's always a minority of people who don't like whoever is really big. So my advice to the host of this apartment, this lovely apartment that I'm staying in Vilnius, Lithuania, was it always takes longer than you think it's going to take. Anybody can figure it out if they stick with it. You don't have to spend tons of money on meta ads. You can post organically. You can post on TikTok. You can post on Instagram. You can post on all the channels I mentioned before. In fact, her niche, I'm not going to say what it is. Her niche was perfect for all of these channels. If you can get more technical, bottom of funnel search engine optimization, the exact way to find the people who are looking for the thing that you are selling. It is the most amazing hack in marketing. But if you just want to make artful, amazing content that also sells your product, you can do that too. And you can use social to do that. And like I said, stick with it. You're going to figure it out. And don't be dismayed when people see you posting all the time. I also said start with a new account. Make a fresh account. That's the last thing I want to say. If you want to start posting and you want to start posting every day, don't do it with your existing connections. Your content's going to be bad. You need to find your own audience. And your friends are not necessarily your own audience. Some will be, but many people in your social group are not going to be your existing audience. It will mess up your algorithm. Start with a new account. All right, that is all that I wanted to share with you on this episode of the show. This is a question I hear a lot. I like answering it. And if you have an idea and you're like, could it work? Could it work in this market? I don't know. Actually, you know what? There's one more thing that I said, because this is Europe. So the last thing that I added, because my host asked me, is the US market complicated, or does it depend on the audience? And I said, the European market is way more complicated. There are so many laws and rules here for businesses. And I just spoke to someone who reads my newsletter who is in Germany. And he said he wanted to start doing marketing for a company. I believe it was a services-based company, but I'm not 100% certain. But I believe it was just a services-based company. And he's like, yeah, I want to start marketing for this company, but I'm waiting a year for my business to incorporate. And I'm like, in the United States, we'll just start the business and incorporate it as we go. And he's like, no, we can't do that here in Germany. We got to wait for it to be incorporated. And he said, it takes a year. And I don't know what that's like, but that sounds, I feel deep sympathy for anybody who can't start doing marketing for a company, even if it doesn't exist, without the legal entity. In the US, people start building a brand way before they have a legal entity. When the business gets serious, that is when they incorporate, typically. Now, look, I'm not giving legal advice, and there's plenty of people who incorporate before. But I don't know any entrepreneurs who are going to wait in the United States a year for a legal entity to be formed before they can do anything, especially marketing, especially brand building and building top of mind awareness. So last thing is answering my host question. I don't believe the US market is more complicated. I think it's way less complicated. It's such a great market, and anyone can reach it. Anyone can reach it from anywhere in the world, putting out content on all these social media channels and with SEO. I've recorded so many podcasts about how I built crazy bottom of funnel SEO landing pages while living in Ukraine during lockdowns in 2022. All of those landing pages, most of the visitors were in the United States. You can build and launch whatever you want from anywhere in the world and reach the audience that you want anywhere. What a great time to be alive. And as I talked about on an episode 2 days ago, now with tools like Cursor and Claude and Replit, you can build tons of stuff too. And you don't have to answer to anybody. You can build what you want, launch it, use the marketing strategies that I talk about to get visibility and customers. What a great time to be alive. This is episode 429 of my daily digital marketing podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.